You're listening to the Noble Life Podcast, sponsored by the Noble Life Coaching System, the podcast that brings you specialists in different aspects of building and sustaining a good life, health, work balance, and gives you the information needed to become the best version of yourself. On this episode of the Noble Life Podcast, we have Ross Thornton. Ross is a performance rehab specialist who specialises in working with active men who are recovering from injuries, but they're not ready to give up like 90% of the men on the planet when they get injured, because they want to continue to do high performance activities despite being told otherwise by most other doctors or chiropractors or physios. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ross, who is also a dad and is fitting in the podcast during his son's nap. So,
let's hope he stays still.
Tell us more about the rehab specialist stuff. Why is this so important to you? Tell us your story.
My story started 14 years ago when I was a teenager. I was 17, and I had a football injury. I actually tore both my groins in one football match, and hobbled around for a few months. But once they started to heal, I started to get like some nasty back pain, and it just completely ruined my life in a way that like everything I did was active. I wasn't very academic, so like I was good at the activity side of things, being hands-on, but it just robbed everything away from me. And you see, I spent thousands and thousands of pounds of my own money as a teenager and my parents' money to see all the specialists, because my doctor was useless. I went to see chiropractors, osteopaths, sports therapists, physios, acupuncture. I even paid some dude to stick magnets on my back because he promised me it would change the ion levels and it would change my negative ions into positive ions. I would literally try everything and nothing worked. And as an 18-year-old, I was then told by my GP that if I was a racehorse, and this quote is etched into my brain, if I was a racehorse, they would have put me down by now. And I just remember being told that as a teenager, thinking like that my life was over. So I suffered with depression. I lost work because I was so high on painkillers that I couldn't get myself out of bed in the morning. My long-term girlfriend left me because I was just miserable 24/7. And I was stuck in a pit with no options out of it, apart from my GP telling me to go for spinal fusion surgery, and which I knew I didn't want to do. So I lived through this pain, and the only way I got out of it was by strapping on my big boy pants, leaving the back pain industry and the medical industry behind, and actually enrolling into university to complete a degree in injury rehab and actually learn how to fix myself, not rely on anyone else. You see, the biggest problem with this industry is us as professionals. We take the power away from guys, and we make it out that they need us. And that's the worst thing we can do as a practitioner. And that's what I felt everyone was doing to me. So I went into this game, one, selfishly to fix myself, which I managed to do. But then when I became qualified to give the power back to anyone that's injured to be able to fix themselves, give them the knowledge and actually tell them that they don't need all of these fads, all of these approaches, but by simple science, they can actually help themselves.
Do you know what? It's amazingly powerful of how much back pain actually impacted your life to the point where you completely changed your own trajectory to go to university to study something that potentially you would have had no interest in because of the pain that you were feeling. And not a lot of people actually have the gumption, the guts to actually do that. So that's highly commendable. But at the same time, it also shows you how much you were actually suffering with that. And I can imagine that there's a lot of people out there that are suffering similarly with back pain or shoulder pain or whatever else it is. I mean, I know personally, a couple of years ago, I ended up tearing my labrum in my right hip and having a labral repair. And that was nothing compared to somebody that has chronic back pain. But that was a nightmare. I mean, I was out of action for months. And it took me a while to get myself rehabbed and sort that out as well. You know, if it wasn't for my dog, I don't think I would have been quite as well rehabbed if I hadn't been forced to take him walks. You know, so
that's it.
It's amazing that it's so impactful in your life that you have completely changed your trajectory. So tell me, after you managed to sort yourself out, you could have easily just become a normal clinic rehab physio specialist. What did you decide to go down a different path and help guys that not only were experiencing the pain, but guys that had been told that they should just give up?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you now, it wasn't as smooth running as that. So I went into this industry obviously with some empathy, which stood me quite well, that I could, like, I remember talking to doctors who would be giving me advice to like improve my nutrition, improve my movement, but they would be 20 stone plus, and I just have no respect to what they were saying at all. And so I went into the industry with all the big ideas of how I was going to change this industry, how I was going to be like stick to my values, stick to my morals. But I slipped into the same track as a lot of these medical professionals do. So I opened up my own facility. So I had my own fitness studio where I specialised in helping people overcome back pain whilst losing weight and getting strong, and that was my niche. But actually, I found myself slipping into the same habits that I was stuck in the trap of getting people in management programs and keeping them coming back to me because I had a business head on, not an empathetic head on. And I did it for a few years. And if any medical professional tells you they're not doing that, I'm gonna call bullshit on them, because, like I say, I've got the guts to admit to you right now, Fraser, that we've all got to feed our families. We've all got to make a living. Now, unfortunately, for the route that I'm going down now, it doesn't make business sense, because I'm actually telling people right now, I'm like, stop putting your fate in other people's hands. Go learn, go find out about yourself, go like build knowledge, and then use that to go help you. And when I first started doing that, I saw it impacting on my business, my income, that I just slowly slipped into the same habits that every other medical practitioner was doing. Now, I sat back and I did this for about 5 years, and yet I had a very, very profitable business, and it was doing very, very well. But I sat back and reflected, and it dawned on me that I wasn't living to the high morals and the high values that I wanted to put myself under. And I wasn't doing the best for all of my patients, but I was actually doing the best for me. And so I sat back, and I remember it. I sat on my massage couch and just really reflected and asked myself the question of, like, why did I get into this industry in the first place? And from that moment on, I sold the fitness studio, sold up everything, and then pursued having my online only rehab business, where I'm telling guys, like, look, no one's going to save you. It's exactly the same with health and fitness. Like, no one's going to do the work for you. You need to build that knowledge up. You need to take the control, and then I can guide you, I can lead you, and I can tell you exactly what it is. But it's a case of stop getting massages, stop getting acupuncture, injections, realigned by a chiropractor. None of that matters unless you're improving your habits, your lifestyle, your environment, your mindset, and then on top of that, the way you're moving. And that's now the way the business is going. And it took a while to build up, because it's a change of approach, but the message is spreading, and guys who I've never met, guys on the other side of the world, are going from bedridden, addicted to painkillers, to now being able to, within a few months, play with their kids, lift heavy weights, be more productive at work, not have all the things that I went through, like losing relationships, losing jobs, losing productivity. But now they're starting to get their life back on track because pain isn't distracting them anymore.
I really like that. So it's similar to a lot of things in life. In fact, absolutely everything. When somebody wants to achieve any goals, if they don't look after that driver cog, which is themselves, every other aspect is not going to work. So with the pain, if they're not looking after themselves as that driver cog, then the back pain or the leg pain or whatever it is not going to get better. In fact, it's going to get worse because the driving cog is not being looked after.
That's it.
That makes complete sense to me, and I'm sure to everybody else that's watching or listening here. So, yeah. Ross, tell me this. What's one of the biggest myths about this? Now, obviously, there's a lot of what you've spoken about is misconception, but what's the one biggest thing that stands in the way of people actually improving, and why is it not the case?
So the biggest myth in this whole industry is that we need to treat pain. Right. And that's going to sound completely backwards to someone that is in pain, has an injury. But if you're focusing on just treating pain, you become a victim to that pain. Whereas we need to go into this whole thing with a bigger picture. A bit like pain is what we call a lagging indicator that something's wrong. Yeah. Now, we live in a world where we are so busy, we've got other priorities, we tend to put our health needs below other things, especially if you're a family man, especially if you're busy at work, you tend to put your work ahead of you, your family ahead of you. Everything comes above that need to go sort out a problem with you, which means we end up putting like niggles and problems into the back of our heads until it's too late, and then it becomes urgent. And then what we fall foul of is like paying someone, like being a victim and saying, look, I need you to fix my pain, and then having the high expectations that that's enough. Whereas we need to be changing the way we see things, and we need to be clocking on to problems before pain even arises. Now that takes a certain level of body awareness and knowledge in order to do that. But that's the biggest myth. People going to treat pain. If you only treat pain or mask pain with prescription drugs, you're not actually solving any issues. You're simply stuck in a management plan, just spinning your wheels, spending money, never actually fixing the issue because you've chosen to be a victim to pain rather than in control of solving the cause of the problem.
So one of the biggest roadblocks that people are actually facing is the fact that they get put on these pain pills, they get treated with the conception that they're actually going to be fixed. But to be honest, without sounding crass or harsh, that these medical professionals, they've got no intention of actually fixing them because they know that these painkillers are just covering it up. So the big question here is, we know that what they've got to do is change their mindset and get their head wrapped around it and educate themselves, but how do they actually do that? How do they overcome this issue?
That's true, and that is because we've been marketed to by these slimy marketers. Like the pharmaceutical industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they know how to sell us products of ease and sloth and the easy way out, like just take this, it will fix you. Whereas, like, you're right, it takes hard work, like anything in life. And this is the biggest problem that I have with helping guys out is anything you want to be successful in life, whether or not it's with your relationships or your career, it takes hard work, it takes building knowledge, it takes growth. But then why does it come to being in pain that you want the easy route, you want the quick fix? Now, the biggest shift that it takes in order to get out that is accepting that it's going to be hard, and accepting that it's going to take daily work, and the work, just small snippets a day, just 15 minutes a day of maintenance on your body is going to be 10x the results of seeing someone once every 2 weeks, once every month, just to realign your spine, and then right, I'll see you next week for the next installment of our management program. But it's actually, again, understanding and it's acceptance that it's going to be hard, that it's going to be on you and nobody else, and the fact that, like, guess what? There's going to be times where it's going to be boring as well, and like, you want to be doing the fun stuff, but we've got to strip it back and do the boring work in order to overcome those problems. And that's when a lot of guys fall off the wagon, is when they realize that it's hard work and it's not all fun and games and lifting heavy weights, but it's actually learning new movement patterns, learning how to activate muscles that they haven't done before. And that takes work, and a lot of people aren't willing to do that.
Yep. So effectively, you really got to approach it the same way that you would approach any challenge in life. You've got to realize that it's not going to be easy. You can't just sit down and do absolutely nothing and expect the results. You're not going to be saved. The same way when it comes to absolutely anything in life. But we both know, mate, that this is hard work. And it's not just hard work, but people find it very difficult to stay on track. So what do you actually do? What support do you give? What resources do you have? What do you make available to the guys that you work with to ensure that they've got the best chance of success? Yeah.
And like we've been comparing, like, anything big in life takes big work. Now, and this is what I do with my guys. So instead of setting what I call January 1st goals, where you go in, you're like, I want to be pain-free, I want a six-pack, I want to be strong. All of those goals are useless without proper planning, without actual scheduling. And so what I do with my guys and with anyone that works with me is we approach your health and fitness, your recovery from an injury, as a big project, just like a big project at work. So we strip it right back and we set something called primary aspiration goals. Okay, so the first thing we set, before we even talk about recovering from injury, before we even talk about what our actual goals are, we must set goals that relate to who it is you want to be in this world. Okay, so I break up these primary goals into three main sections. We have our identity. Who do you want to be? Who are you? Like, well, you want to be a role model. You want to be charismatic. You want to be confident. Like, anything like that. Like, picking characteristics that you want to show up as. Okay. The second category is relating goals. How do you want to communicate with people? All right. So how do you want to communicate with your spouse, with your children, with your colleagues, with your CEO of your company? You've got to actually pre-plan who it is you want to turn up as, because if you don't, you're winging it. And as soon as you're winging it, you're going to fail. Like with any project. It's exactly the same with the health and fitness. And the third category is growth. Like, where do you want to go? Like, are you always growing? And we must always be reflecting on those primary goals before setting our project plan out. And then we start setting, like, task goals. Like, so where do you actually want to be? Like, do you want to compete at martial arts again? Do you want to, and I'm talking like impossible goals, because when a guy's injured, they're sucks of all hope. They just want to be pain-free because that's all they can hope for. I'm saying, no. We're going to set impossible goals.
So they're not seeing that, oh, yeah, I'm going to be pain-free, because that's a very weak goal. You're saying, what's going to happen after the fact? What's going to happen after that? What's going to happen after that? So you're projecting massively into the future with almost the assumption that you're going to be successful in this endeavor.
100%. And actually excite them again, right? Getting pain-free isn't exciting. What makes you want to get up every day, do the work just to be pain-free? Whereas I know if I've got a goal to be back in the boxing ring and sparring again and competing again, like, that makes me want to go do the work. That makes me want to go to bed early. That makes me want to eat well. That makes me want to stay hydrated, because I know that's the work that needs to do to get to the top level, to be a high performer again, not just pain-free.
So then you've done the mindset side of things then, yeah? Yeah. Now, I understand that's massively important, and that's stuff that most coaches and most people that are driven to actually succeed in absolutely anything, you've got to get the mindset down, because if you don't have that down, you're setting yourself up for a failure.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, with the way I work things, it's mental fortitude, which is your mindset. That's part of the mental fortitude. Then we move on to your physical and mental health and fitness. How do you do that aspect, your movement, your posture, how do you promote that for the guys with your online platform, and how do you ensure that they're actually doing it properly? Because it's one thing advising, but with these guys that have got injuries, it must be massively important that they're actually doing it properly. So tell us a little bit about that.
And that's big, because, like you say, I'm doing everything on an online platform, so I never actually meet 99% of the guys in my platform. And you're right, like, technique and form is really important throughout health and fitness, but with recovery from injury, is tenfold. It's really, really important. So the way we set this out is we strip things right back down to the foundations. So we leave our egos aside, and we figure out exactly the weaknesses in our posture. And again, it's about giving them the control back again. This isn't on me. Like, I'm here to critique, I'm here to help them improve and pick up on points. But if someone's always asking me, like, what do I do next? What do I do next? Like, Ross, like, where's next? Like, I've got to be like, look, you've got to be resourceful here. Like, I've got the best rehab program in the world, and I know that because I've bought thousands of different rehab programs. I've done my research, I've looked at things, I've gone through all the bull that's out there, and I've managed to strip it down into what I know is the best rehab program, and the results reflect that. However, if the guys aren't ready to drop the ego and drop back, this is why we start with the mindset, just like you, Fraser, then they're never actually going to take the control to be that resourceful. They're still victims. They're still reliant on me to save them. The only way they can be saved is by taking control. So here's what we do. They are given a program which starts them off day one. And then module 1 exercises, real foundational level. Can you activate your glutes? Can you activate the soles of your feet? Can you get yourself in good posture? And then when they can prove that to me through video that they post every single day, they post videos of their exercises, I can then upgrade into the next level. Now, when I see if their posture isn't correct during their exercises, or they're moving too fast, or they've completely got it wrong, then I can jump in and ask them, not tell them, what do you think? What do you think about that exercise? And we have a structure. So we have 6 main points of our body that we look at. And I get them to tell me what they think they've done and assess their own performance. Because if I'm just here as a teacher telling them what to do, they're never going to take control. They're still reliant on me.
Yeah.
Whereas if I can teach them how to assess their own performance, there's no stopping them throughout any level.
Absolutely, because the big problem is that it's the old fable: if you teach a man to fish, he'll feed himself for a lifetime. If you give him a fish, he'll eat for one meal. So this is the exact same thing here, I'm guessing, is that if you're just fixing them and giving them everything they need, then the minute they leave, they're just going to slip back into the old habits, and they're going to have the same injury reoccur.
Yep.
Whereas you're actually giving them the tools and the knowledge to truly change the way that they're moving, change the way they're thinking about that injury, and fully recovering.
And that's the secret right there. Learn how to move better, and you'll never be injured again. Bodies are designed to live for 110 years without pain. But the fact is, because we're not moving functionally well enough, we might have rolled shoulders. We might have, like, we're stuck at our laptops with our necks pointing too far forwards. Our feet might be collapsed in. If you're moving like that, you're going to be wearing down your musculoskeletal system before that 110 years. Now
Ross,
body's very good.
I'm going to have to explain this, because I know that most of the folks out there are going to be hearing you saying that we're able to live for 110 years. And they're going to be, that's some royal BS right there, Ross. Explain the science behind that. Don't leave us hanging there. Explain what you mean by that.
So the science behind that is our bodies are wonderful machines. However, we aren't yet adapted to our new ways of living. Our bodies haven't adapted to being sat at a desk all day. We're designed to move, we're designed to hunt, we're designed to throw, run all day, stay active. However, we've turned into sitting machines, and when we sit, it changes the makeup of our body. So certain muscles tighten, other muscles weaken, and we then forget how to activate muscles. And this is why if you ever watch a toddler running around, always perfect form, running on the balls of their feet, and when they squat to pick things up, they've got the perfect squatting technique. But then as we move through life, we start picking up these bad habits, and it starts when kids go to school. So they might be perfect at squatting and deadlifting and running and throwing, all of those actions, because it comes naturally to our bodies. But the moment you get a child sat down at school all day, every day, and then throughout their whole school life, sitting down, and then after that, throughout working life, sat in an office, sitting down, driving to work, sitting down, it changes the makeup of our body and it adapts to the position that it's mostly in, hence putting pressure on structures that aren't designed to cope with those pressures and then causing you pain.
So when you're saying 110 years, you're not necessarily meaning that you can live for 110 years. You're saying that if you remove any chance of disease, if you remove any external forces that might, come to a shorter lifespan. So you're not going to get hit by a bus, you're not going to get dengue fever, none of that stuff's happening. And if you live your life the way that the human animal did for hundreds of thousands of years, then potentially, if there's no other external factors that could end up making you sick or injuring you or anything like that, our physical body does have the ability to live to 110 years before it starts to break down.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. So your musculoskeletal system, so your joints, your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments, your bones are all designed to last 110 years.
So what would you say to somebody that says, well, I'm getting old now, which is why I'm feeling pain? What's your reply to that?
So age is the easiest, most bullshit excuse for being in pain. We have been force-fed that because you're getting old, you should be in pain and you should be fatigued. But actually, that pain isn't down to age. That pain is down to more time spending in poor movement habits, poor movement practices. So your body's designed to last. If you move, it's got a certain amount of cycles you can move poorly with millions and millions of bad repetitions, that by the time you start getting into your 40s, your 50s, you are feeling pain, and it's because you're winding down on the musculoskeletal system. But it's nothing to do with age. It's simply down to your poor movement practices.
So it's the way you're looking after your machine.
Exactly that. Think of it like a car, and you top up the oil and you pump up the tyres every time you fill it up with petrol, and you are always servicing it. That car's going to last longer. Whereas if you just run it into the ground and then it blows up, it's going to cost you more to fix that car because you neglected it on the day-to-day running of it.
The biggest problem there is, and I remember very clearly when I was 18, I had an old car that I ran into the ground and I was on the motorway and the big end fell out. Now, at that point, the car's written off. I had to get another car. With our bodies, we don't have that luxury.
That's so true.
New body. So we can't just run it into the ground. We can't let the big end fall out in the motorway. We've got to look after it. We've got to change the way we think about things. And we've got to change the way we actually work our machines so we last longer. Tell you what, this is going to be hugely useful for anybody out there that's been feeling pain for a long time, has been going to chiropractors, going to physios, going to doctors, they're on pain pills, or any of these other things, and we think, oh, because I've got a slipped disc, oh, because I've got a bad back, oh, because I dislocated my shoulder 4 years ago, and they're using that as the excuse not to get active, not to play with kids, not to go swimming with their little nieces and nephews, not to spend life the way they want to be spending it. This is the kind of thing that actually solves their problem.
Yeah, and this is a great time for me to say, your body is so adaptable. It's never too late. I don't care what injury you've got. You could have slip disc, you could have broken back, you could have all these like fancy diagnoses. It doesn't matter. You can't change the past. That's happened. So stop dwelling on any diagnosis you've given. If you've gone for an MRI scan and it's told you that your back's ruined, who cares? Play the cards you're being dealt right now and change your future. But no one else can do that. No treatment can do that. No surgery can do that. Only you stepping up and changing your environmental factors and the way you move is going to be able to do that. It's hard, but it's harder being in pain every single day, right?
Well, another big thing is determination. I mean, just to very quickly share a very short story about myself, is that when I was a child, I was born massively premature. Both of my lungs collapsed, ripping my esophagus down with it. Now, I ended up in Great Ormond Street Hospital. I got a full tracheostomy, which is why my voice is a little bit husky. Now, when I got out of hospital, my parents were told that I was going to be a respiratory cripple, that I was never going to be able to play a contact sport, I was never going to be able to play a wind instrument, I was never going to be able to be that physical, and my growth was going to be stunted. Now, I think it's safe to say that as a rugby player that plays the bagpipes and does a mean Rod Stewart at karaoke has overcome those
at the same time
issues all at the same time, yeah. But not to just bring that up, but it's one of these things where you're being told you cannot do something, but it's up to you whether you're going to put in the effort, change your mindset, and be determined enough to do it.
That's it.
We talk about that because that's exactly the way these guys need to think about their pain. Yes, they've been told for years that they can't do something because of this pain, but it all boils down to exactly what you've been talking about. They've got to do this. Now, Ross, I think this is going to be massively powerful. And before we move on to your final words of wisdom, I always like to ask a bit of a random question, just to catch you a little bit off guard, and it tells us a little bit about yourself. So, we all know that you are the rehab specialist.
Yep.
And the beautiful thing about this is that your full life was changed because of your pain as a teenager. Your whole life trajectory went in the direction of being a rehab specialist because of the pain that yourself experienced. So, if you could do any other profession on the planet, what would it be and why?
Oh, good question. So, I'm in this game to help people. So whatever I would do would certainly be helping. And if it was away from the fitness industry as a whole or the rehab industry as a whole, I always, growing up, wanted to be a vet. You see, I love animals. I love to help. And so yeah, like as I was growing up, it was my first ever goal. It was all the other kids were talking about becoming professional footballers. Like I was always the one that was, well, I'm going to become a vet when I'm older.
Love it. That makes a lot of sense actually, because a lot of the time when people aim towards something to help others, even if they weren't doing what they were doing right now, the other angle of their life, the other trajectory they could have been on, would still have had similar aspects to that, which is why I like asking these questions. It shows a certain amount of honesty with regards to the people that are talking, which I like. With that said, Ross, what I'd like to do now is ask for your final words of wisdom. What advice would you give to our audience here? If they are feeling pain, and they have been for years, what do they do? What is your advice to them right now?
So my advice to anyone that's listening who's suffering with any type of pain is to think about the solution. The end goal might seem so far away from you right now that you don't even feel like you know where the first step is. But it's on you to take that first step. Don't be scared to start moving forwards, because any progress is progress. It's so easy when you are stuck in day-to-day pain to just give up and to end up just surviving each day and to start resenting your life and resenting the things and start regretting what you're missing out on. But you are in control no matter what level of pain you're in to go and make that better. Whether or not that's to find out about nutrition and diet to help reduce in the inflammatory response in your body. Go find out and test things. Whether or not that's to make a goal that you're going to get more sleep, because that's where our bodies recover from the day, then go and get more sleep and be disciplined with that. Little tiny factors are all going to help contribute. There's no one answer. There's no one treatment, otherwise we'd all be doing it. There's no one surgery. But changing little things apart from your life and do your research and find out what you are in control of doing. And then go start putting those steps in and become disciplined with doing it on a day-to-day basis. Not looking for instant gratification of a treatment and hoping you walk out pain-free, but understanding that the longer you can avoid gratification but still do the work, you will be rewarded not only with being pain-free, but getting in the best shape of your life, being happy again, and living and doing all the things you want to again. No longer taking the advice of what this whole industry is doing, is taking things away from you. Again, I was told never to run again. Since then, I've run 7 marathons. I was told never to play sports again. This season, I'm playing with my nephew for the first time in the same football team, 16-year-old. And I'm coming up to my mid-30s. And it's all because I didn't listen to people when they said I couldn't do something. And did it take time and effort? Yes. But the pain I had to go through to get to where I am today was nothing compared to the pain that I would have been through if I just accepted that I couldn't do these things.
Really great, Ross. Well, Ross, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for being on the Noble Life podcast. If anybody wants to reach out, if anybody wants to find out more about you, follow you on social media, how can they find you? How can they contact you?
So my handles are all the Back Pain Coach. So look up the Back Pain Coach and Ross Thornton on any social media, and I should pop up. You can also jump on my website, which has lots of blog posts about the little things that you can be doing, like with sleep, hydration, nutrition, training. I like to give as much free information out as possible, and you can go to the backtolifemovement.com to go see those links and blog posts.
Okay, well, I hope everybody's enjoyed that episode of the Noble Life podcast. It's been a real pleasure having Ross on, and I hope to have you back on at some point in the future.
Yeah, I look forward to that, Fraser. That'd be great.
Okay, thanks, Ross. Talk to you later. Cheers. You've been listening to the Noble Life podcast. To find out more about our guest or any of the content discussed on the podcast, please refer to this episode's show notes. If you'd like to find out more about the Noble Life coaching system, please visit our website at www.noblehealthcoach.com and take a look at the Noble Men programme, which is designed specifically for men in high-demand professions who are striving for the control and balance in their lives to become the happiest, healthiest, and best versions of themselves.